Every day, we're putting food inside of our body. Think about how intimate that is, how personal that is. Every day, we take so many silly things more privately and personally than the one thing that we allow to enter our body. And yet, the simple action often just feels like another step in our mundane days, but it's likely the most important step. But how often do you think about what you're putting into your body? And how much do you know about the origins of what you're putting into your body?
Welcome to the Runaway Ranch Garden 2024. We left you guys off last week putting together our plant and plot garden beds. Well, now they're finally together and they are placed in the garden. We laid our garden beds into 3 different sections with a big horseshoe path splitting them up. We got 1, 2, and 3. This is our garden gnome. He lays right here all the time. Hi, Bubba's. He's good, he's got sun, he's got water. Oh, good boy. So we have 20 different garden beds here in our garden, and then we have 2 open plots that we plan to grow directly in the soil. So this is the area, and we plan to use this area for like growing vines like watermelon and different types of pumpkins and things that need more space. So in between all the garden beds, we are laying down a bunch of wood chips. This will help it from not getting muddy, from preventing weeds to grow through, and I just like the look of it. It's pretty. We eventually planned to put in a taller fence, but we made sure that the materials that we were using could be reused for like a goat fence. So we're not wasting any materials that we're buying and then replacing. So this is our temporary fence for now, and it actually looks pretty nice. The main purpose of this fence for us this year is to keep our doggos out. Stetson seems to love everything he can get his hands on, so this will deter him. This will deter him from getting in, or try to deter him from getting into the garden. Although deer obviously can jump over this fence, it is a deterrent, and we plan to plant like different flowers that deter them, like lavender, and just kind of set up the garden in a way that deters them as much as possible.
And I want to put up a big old scarecrow. I know that's supposed to just scare away crows, but I think the potential presence of a human being in here would actually scare the deer of our area away pretty well. Over here is one of the poles for one of our garden gates. We're gonna have 2 different gates on the garden because of the size of it, but depending on where we're approaching the garden on our property, we have a way to get in. And we actually plan to use all cut trees from our property to frame out these gates and kind of be sturdy posts on each side of that.
As you can see, spring is coming and there's a lot more to do, so let's get back to work.
All right, so while Kath is mixing up the dirt that we just put in here, I'll explain what's going on. So the local place to get dirt, the local composter or mulcher or whatever you want to call it here, has a couple different options of materials that you can use. And we decided for cost effectiveness to use a combination of 2 different types of materials. One of which is a potting soil, so that's obviously the slightly more expensive version. And then the other is a topsoil blend. And this stuff is pretty great because it's not just like a normal topsoil or fill dirt. What they do is it's a blend of topsoil, sand, wood shavings, and manure. So what we're doing,
I like this. Look how good that is.
and that's a blend of the both together. So we're mixing these together. I like both materials a lot, and the finished product of the two mixed together is really, really nice. It's great fill for these raised garden beds, and it's also gonna save us a bunch of money because we're getting this all priced per scoop.
Other than some seedlings that we have already started, this will be the first plant that goes right here into our garden. What do you got there, baby?
Got some seascape strawberries.
Mmm.
So we've had the roots soaking for about an hour as recommended. And now we're gonna get these bad boys in and then water them into the garden bed. gonna get one. Right here, right? That's where we marked off?
Yep.
Boo, boo, boo. Grow strawberries, grow. Gotta get those roots in real nice. Cool.
They're in.
One more.
One more. So we got 10 of these strawberry plants for now. I think we might order some more, just because I don't think 10 is gonna be enough for the Runaway Ranch garden. But it's a good start. They're here. We're putting them in the ground.
So growing fruit is really, really important to us here. And that's because it's really hard to find just tasty, good produce in the grocery store. If you try strawberries, say from a grocery store, even when they're on and they are really good, but then compare it to like a fresh picked vine ripened strawberry, it'll blow your mind, the flavor difference. Yeah, not comparable at all. But beyond that, and maybe more importantly, is what happens to fruit when it's actually shipped in the way that our food system works. So strawberries and a lot of fruit are actually picked before they're fully ripened. And if they're picked before they're fully ripened, that means they don't have as much time in the soil to absorb as many nutrients as they could. So if they're picked before they're ripened, the strawberry itself is holding less nutrients than they would have been if they stayed on the vine. And as they sit on the shelf, they're actually losing their nutrients as well. So they're already starting at a lower nutrient level and flavor level from being picked too early, and then the whole time during transport, sitting on the shelf, and then eventually sitting in your refrigerator, they're slowly losing some more nutrients. So if you're able to grow these at home, you're getting so much more beneficial nutrients from the produce that you're eating. An interesting fact is actually, if you're not able to grow your own produce, for a lot of fruit, it's a lot more beneficial nutritiously to get frozen fruit than it is fruit from the grocery store. The reason for this is most of the time, frozen fruit is actually ripened on the plant and then brought into the facility and immediately frozen, and that helps preserve the nutrients, and again, it was plant ripened. So frozen fruit is actually in many cases a better option than fresh produce if you're not able to get locally sourced produce or produce that you're able to grow yourself.
Matt and I rely tremendously on our bodies here at the Runaway Ranch, and we'd like to thank AG1 for sponsoring today's video and serving as our foundational nutritional supplement. And what I love about AG1 is that it supports a baseline for your foundational nutritional needs, making it a tasty and convenient single supplement. Now, homesteading off-grid can't just come to a halt when you get an energy crash. And since regularly drinking AG1, I've noticed that my energy levels are feeling more sustained throughout the day. And believe me, this is key when pushing through all-day projects like running fence for your garden. One of the most exciting benefits of AG1 for me is gut health. In the recent years, it has become obvious that good gut health is key for good overall health. And AG1 supports this through probiotics, prebiotics, and digestive enzymes. And the entire purpose of a supplement is for your body to absorb the vitamins and minerals it's taking, right? Well, AG1 carefully sources their ingredients for effective absorption, potency, and nutrient density. When you head over to drinkag1.com/runawaymattandcass or scan the QR code, you'll get an AG1 welcome kit included with your first purchase. Thanks again to AG1 for supporting our bodies, this video, and all the hard projects that we do here at the Runaway Ranch. Cheers!
First time watering one of our beds.
Feels good.
It does. So our goal with this is, obviously this is our rainwater collection system. This is coming off the back of our cabin right now. But the IBC tote sits quite a bit higher than the garden. So my goal is to set this up in kind of a permanent setup that just gravity feed waters. So we'll kind of have a valve that we can turn on in the beginning. It'll likely just power a hose like this. But one day I'd really like to just kind of have an irrigation system that we could either set on a timer if we wanted to solar power it, or just have it mechanical where we just open the valve when we want to water and close it when we're done. But I'm going to water this down pretty good because obviously we just filled this bed, so I want to make sure it gets watered evenly through the bed. Drink up, strawberries.
bush bean, that's what I'm not sure of.
Bush bean, let's just hold off on.
Okay.
Like the others. Like we're really close to being ready to put them in, and we're probably good, but let's focus on this stuff in front of me.
Okay.
So kohlrabi, beets, and carrots we'll put there. We'll start planning and figure out if there's more we want to put in that bed. Kohlrabi takes up a lot of space. Kohlrabi is 8 to 12 inches.
But I don't care to have like ample amounts of kohlrabi. You really like kohlrabi.
I really like when we were...
It's like a cabbage.
It was Butte, right?
Yeah.
When we were at Butte, the farmer's market.
Okay.
Then kale. So I have kale separate because it grows as a stalk. We have all the greens that grow a little more like grass, and then lettuces that grow in a bunch. We'll look at days so that we can calculate your parents are gonna visit.
Yes, like radishes will come. My dad loves radishes.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
And they'll be here end of April. So we have about 50 days.
Yeah.
Ish.
So we can look
So
at what-
anything that's 50 days and younger, we have the opportunity to share with them in
Yeah,
here.
perfect.
Cool. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Babe, I did hear that beer helps the garden grow.
Does it?
Dump it in.
Dump it in. All right, so we're starting seed in our first garden bed. So obviously we put the strawberries in. We have some seedlings going separately, but these are the first seeds that we're actually putting directly into the garden bed. And we're starting with some cold, hardy root type vegetables.
Even though it is early spring here, it feels
It's
warm
not even
here.
spring yet.
It's not even
still technically winter, no?
Yeah, but it's been like crazy warm.
What number is our beets in? While she's counting them, what we did actually is we created a numbering system for all of our beds, and you can kind of go up and zigzag through and count them. And the idea for that, we're gonna be able to note take what we plant in each bed, and we can kind of figure out what's going on in each bed. And it will also allow us to rotate these vegetables into different garden beds so that we're not planting the same thing in the same bed every single year.
Gross.
Did that make you laugh, honey?
No, you're gross. This makes me happy, honey.
Yeah?
Drinking beer, hanging out in my garden. Makes me happy.
Makes you happy? Mwah.
All right, let's plant.
Let's plant.
We are getting kohlrabi in the ground. You don't dig it very deep, right on the top. Kohlrabi is actually a vegetable that me and Matt found. Didn't even know it existed before this, but when we were in the bus in Lady May and
In Butte, Montana, right?
in Butte, Montana at a local farmer's market, and they had it and we loved it. And we ate a lot of it that summer. It was only limited cold weather because it was Montana. So kohlrabi
It was like July in Montana.
a part of that for sure. And we really like it. It's kind of like a mix between a beet and a cabbage. And we really enjoy it. So what's really cool about like growing your own vegetables and growing your own fruits is that there's so many varieties of fruits and vegetables. I mean, there's like countless. What you get at the grocery store is like a quarter of what there is. They're the most abundant, hardy vegetables and fruits that they can give you because they just don't want it to be hard to grow. But guess what? There's so much variety out there. So it's so cool to do it yourself because there's so much variety.
And a big part of like what's actually available in the grocery stores is they pick the varieties that A, are easiest to grow, but B, and even more so, varieties that shelf life is the best. So that they can sit on the shelf in the grocery store, they can go longer in transport for longer. That's why if you go to the grocery store, you know of one singular eggplant.
Yeah,
and there's lots of varieties of eggplant.
Thousands of varieties of eggplant.
That's, like she said, it's super cool about growing yourself is that it opens up the window to so many varieties of maybe even unlike kohlrabi, like vegetables you may know, you now are introduced to so many different varieties.
I mean, we ordered probably, I don't know, half of the stuff we ordered, we probably didn't even know what it was. It just sounded nice.
Yeah, these different varieties taste different.
Absolutely.
Usually the varieties you don't find in the grocery store are better.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And then even from traveling, like when we were in Thailand, the eggplant there, remember the little ball eggplants?
Love.
Phenomenal. The way that you could cook those into like a curry are ridiculous. And then in Mexico, the zucchinis, like the squash.
Oh, the squash.
But they were more of a round shape.
Yeah.
And just, again, just a totally different variety that its taste, its texture, everything's a little bit different. So
And the more different stuff you eat, the better you feel.
yeah. Eat the rainbow, baby.
Eat the rainbow.
In the 1800s, 90% of Americans farmed. In the 1900s, 40%, and now, just less than 2%. While there's varying reasons for this drastic change, it's obvious as to why it's not easy for people to run back to doing it. It's hard work. It's working during all daylight hours. It's sore bodies. And for a long time, there's very little reward. It's easy to see why one might let someone else do this for them. And there's nothing wrong with doing this. But don't do it blindly. Ask questions. Eat what's in season. Use high quality and research supplements. And support your local farms. Chances are, the closer you are to where your food was raised or grown, the better that food is for you.
Whew. Looks good, right?
It looks good. I think that is the last one for now.
I think we ran a pretty good line.
I think it looks great. Whew. Time for
Most of the fence ran. We got most of it going. Just what, 2 little small sections left for poles, and then
the actual fencing.
Yeah, and then the gates.
Little by little.
And then
it doesn't stop.
Yep, lots of projects.
Get our seedlings a little more natural sun, baby.
Behind us we have some of our seedlings out, and while it doesn't look like many, there's actually 84 there.
They are all different types of peppers and tomatoes.
And eggplant.
Oh, and eggplant.
Don't forget about the eggplant. So these are mostly plants that are really, really warm, that we can't start early enough, because most other plants that we'll be growing will be able to start directly in the beds or in the ground within the coming weeks. So these we're starting separately. The reason we have so many, 84, is because we kind of have varying purposes for using them. We have lots of like really tasty like slicing tomatoes.
Or like cherry tomatoes.
Yep, and things like that. But then we also have a couple varieties of paste tomatoes. So those are really good for canning, and they actually all ripen at once, which plays really nicely into canning because you pull them all from the plant at the same time, then you can go and process them. So we're hoping that, I don't know if we'll get a full year's worth of like canned tomato sauce and all that kind of good stuff, but we'll have a bunch.
This is obviously the first year, and this is the first time we've ever canned. So what's really cool about growing your own food is also figuring out how to preserve your food, because the reality is the idea of the garden is abundance, right? As much stuff as we can have that'll last is what we need. So learning how to preserve the food is really important as well.
And on the pepper side, we have everything varying from a whole bunch of sweet peppers, so just kind of like different varieties of bell peppers, to really hot peppers, to peppers that, to be quite honest, I'm not sure what they're going to taste like fresh. What I do know is that they're staples to a lot of Mexican food. So I've mentioned a lot before on this channel that my favorite Mexican dish is birria with a good rich consomme. So I grew a lot of peppers that are key components to making birria or making consomme that you actually dry out and then you use when you're making the dish itself. We'll see what they taste like fresh. I'm a little less familiar with it. So
I'm sure they'll be good.
An example of this would be the guajillo chili.
Yes.
So very excited about those. We'll be drying lots and lots of different hot peppers as well. You can't really have too many because A, we eat a lot of spicy food, and B, we're gonna have chickens.
We're gonna have chickens.
So we'll be able to use chili flake for our chickens as well.
I basically want you to come into my house and there's just dried peppers hanging everywhere. All over the place.
And garlic and onions
garlic. It looks like a witchcraft. That's what I want my house to look like. So we're really just excited to have the garden up and going. I mean, it's really the purpose, it feels at least like the purpose of why we're here.
And we're just here in our first early days. We just put our first seeds in the ground, and we're really, really happy that we were able to share that with y'all. So as always, y'all, thank you for supporting. Thank you for watching. We got more seed to plant. We got more logs to put in beds. We got more dirt to fill.
More work to be done.
We'll see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.
Can I tell you what's been on my mind? Sick and tired of the 9 to 5 in the city life. Hey darling, we could get out of town, see the beautiful world around, wanna see it now.